The alarm screamed through the communications center like a dying animal. Hands shook as she watched the screens fill with red warnings. 43 warships had just appeared in orbit above 7. The peaceful colony world had no defenses. They had no weapons. They had never needed them before. "Governor, we need help now," shouted into her headset. Her voice cracked with panic. "I know, I'm trying to reach the council." His voice came back just as frightened. "Keep trying to contact anyone nearby." Was only 23 years old. She had been working as a communications officer for less than a year. This was supposed to be a quiet posting. 7 was a farming colony. They grew food and shipped it to other worlds. Nothing exciting ever happened here, until today. The building shook as the first bombs hit the northern district. Grabbed her desk to stay in her chair. Through the window she could see fires rising into the sky. They were not even talking to them. They were just attacking, killing, destroying. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. She opened the galactic database of military powers. They had treaties with several species, but they were all too far away. It would take weeks for help to arrive. The colony would be dead by then. "Please, please, please," whispered as she searched. Her eyes scanned the list of nearby civilizations. Most were peaceful traders like the. Some were neutral. None of them had military forces close enough to help. Then she saw it, a database entry that made her pause. Humans military species coordinates, Sector 7 Alpha. The entry was marked with a yellow warning symbol, but the details were corrupted. Half the text was missing or scrambled. What she could read said, "Newly spacefaring species, recently achieved FTL travel, small fleet, approach with caution." The coordinates showed they were only 3 days away at FTL speeds. 3 days. The colony might last that long if they hid in the bunkers. Pulled up the communication protocols. The corrupted file showed humans as a minor species, new to space, probably weak, but they were close. They were the only ones close enough to maybe, possibly help. Her hand hovered over the transmit button. Another explosion rocked the building. She heard screaming from outside. People were dying. She pressed the button. "This is 7 colony species sending distress call to human military forces. We are under attack by Empire. 43 warships. No defenses. Requesting any assistance possible. Coordinates attached. Please, if you can hear this, we need help." Sent the message and watched it disappear into space, traveling at the speed of light toward the human coordinates. It would take hours to reach them, if they even received it, if they even cared. The door burst open. Governor ran in, her face pale. "Did you reach anyone?" "I sent a distress call to a species called humans. They're the closest military power I could find." His face went white, not pale, white, like all the blood had drained from her body. "What did you just say?" "Humans. The database said they're a military species 3 days away. I sent." "No, no, no, no," grabbed shoulders. "Tell me you didn't call the humans." Felt her stomach drop. "The database said they were a small, newly spacefaring species. I thought." "That's a corrupted file. It's over 200 years old." His hands were shaking. "Humans aren't a small species anymore. They're the ones everyone is afraid of." "What?" But the file said. "The file is wrong." Pulled up a chair and sat down hard. She looked like she might be sick. "Humans don't negotiate. They don't trade much. They don't join councils. Do you know why?" Shook her head. "Because 200 years ago, when they first achieved FTL travel, they were peaceful. They tried to make friends. Then a pirate fleet attacked one of their colony ships, killed 3,000 human civilians. Men, women, children, all dead." Another explosion shook the building, but kept talking, her voice hollow. "The humans sent a request to the Galactic Council for help. They asked for justice. The council said it would take time to investigate. It would take years to bring the pirates to trial. The humans said thank you and ended the transmission." His hands gripped the edge of the desk. 6 days later, every pirate base in that entire sector of space was gone, just gone. The humans found them all, destroyed them all. They didn't capture anyone. They didn't take prisoners. They didn't ask for permission. They just killed every pirate they could find. Thousands of them. Felt cold, but we asked for help, we didn't. The Galactic Council tried to sanction them, tried to say what they did was wrong. You know what the human ambassador said? Laughed, but there was no humor in it. He said, "You failed to protect the innocent. We will never make that mistake." Then they left the council and never came back. "So they're dangerous," said quietly. "But we need dangerous right now. They are killing us." "You don't understand." Stood up and walked to the window. The city was burning below. When humans answer a distress call, they don't send a rescue ship. They don't send negotiators. They send everything, every ship they can spare, every weapon they have. They come like a storm, and they don't stop until whoever hurt you is dead or broken. That sounds like what we need. No, what we need is to evacuate, to run, to hide, turn back to. Because when humans arrive, this planet is going to become a war zone. They won't ask to leave. They won't negotiate. They will fight. And when humans fight, planets burn. Felt tears on her face. I was just trying to save us. I know. Walked over and pulled the young officer into a hug. I know you were, and maybe you did, but you also just invited the most terrifying species in the galaxy to our home. The communications console beeped, pulled away and looked at the screen. Her heart stopped. Incoming transmission, human origin. Closed her eyes. That was fast. Opened the channel. A voice came through, speaking in perfect language. It was deep and calm, too calm for what was happening. 7. This is Admiral of the Human Defense Fleet. We received your distress call. Hold your position. We are coming. ETA 72 hours. Do not engage the enemy if possible. Conserve your resources. Hide your people. We are bringing 47 battleships. Tell your attackers this. They have 3 days to leave your system. If they are still there when we arrive, they will not leave alive. Out. The transmission ended. 47 battleships. The humans were sending 47 warships to help a colony they had never met, to save people they had never heard of. Sat down slowly. What have you done? Outside, they continued their attack, unaware that the sky would soon be full of human ships, unaware that they had just made the worst mistake of their civilization's history. Looked at the burning city and whispered, I called for help, and help is coming. Admiral stood on the bridge of the battleship Soul's Hammer and watched his crew prepare for war. He was 53 years old and had been in the human defense fleet for 30 years. He had fought in 7 major battles and countless smaller ones, but this felt different. Someone had called for help. It had been almost 20 years since the last distress call from a non-human species. Most of the galaxy had learned not to contact humans unless they were truly desperate. The reputation of humanity was clear. They were warriors who did not know when to stop. But that reputation also meant that when someone did call, they really needed help. Captain, what's the status of the fleet? Asked. Captain looked up from his console. He was young for a battleship captain, only 35, but he had proven himself in combat many times. His ship, Fury, was known throughout the fleet as the most aggressive vessel in the Navy. We have 47 ships confirmed and ready, Admiral. The nearest vessels are joining us at the rally point. We'll have everyone assembled in 6 hours, then we jump together to 7. Good, what do we know about the? A junior officer spoke up. They're a peaceful species, sir. Traders and farmers mostly. They have no military to speak of. They rely on treaties and diplomatic protection. And the? A conquering species, sir. They've taken 12 systems in the past 50 years. They use overwhelming force against weak targets. Their ships are well armed, but their tactics are basic. They rely on numbers. Nodded. How many ships do they have at 7? Initial reports say 43 warships, sir. They have us outnumbered. Captain smiled. It was not a nice smile. That's never stopped us before. Allowed himself a small smile in return. No, no, it hasn't. The door to the bridge opened, and a man in diplomatic robes rushed in. Was the human ambassador assigned to this sector? He was breathing hard like he had been running. "Admiral, you can't do this," said immediately. "Ambassador, how nice of you to join us." "I'm serious. They don't understand what they've done. I've been trying to reach their colony, but they are jamming all communications. They think they called for a rescue mission. They don't know they've started a war." "They didn't start a war. They did when they attacked a peaceful colony." "You know what I mean," stepped closer to the Admiral. "When you arrive with 47 battleships, they are going to fight. They're not just going to leave. And when the fighting starts, the colony is going to be caught in the middle." "Then we'll fight quickly," said calmly. "The faster we win, the less danger to the civilians." "Listen to yourself. You're talking about going to war with an empire over a colony you've never even heard of until 3 hours ago." Turned to face the ambassador directly. His voice was quiet but hard as steel. "A peaceful species sent us a distress call. They asked for help. That's all that matters." "The Galactic Council." "The Council," interrupted, "had their chance to build a galaxy where people didn't need to call us. They failed. So now we do it our way." Looked frustrated. "Your way gets people killed." "Our way saves people who asked for help. There's a difference." Turned back to the main screen. "You can stay or leave, Ambassador, but we're going." Was quiet for a moment. Then he sighed. "I'll stay. Someone needs to handle the diplomatic mess you're about to create." "Appreciated. Has the message gone out to the—" "Yes, sir. We broadcast it on all frequencies. We told them they have 72 hours to leave the 7 system or face complete destruction." "Any response?" "Yes, sir. Pulled up a recording. You'll want to hear this." A voice filled the bridge. It was speaking through a translator, but the arrogance came through clearly. "Humans, this is Commander of the Imperial Fleet. Your threats are meaningless. We have claimed 7 for the Empire. If you attempt to interfere, we will destroy your ships and add your species to our list of conquered peoples. You have no authority here. Leave now or die." The message ended. The bridge was silent. Then Captain started laughing. It was a dark, dangerous sound. Other crew members joined in. Even Admiral allowed himself a small chuckle. "They have no idea who they're threatening," said. "No," agreed. "They don't. Let's teach them." The next 72 hours passed quickly. The human fleet assembled and made the jump to FTL travel. They would arrive at 7 in exactly 3 days, as promised. During the journey, studied everything he could about thee and the. They were exactly as described, peaceful, kind, and completely unprepared for war. They had beautiful art and sophisticated culture. They had poets and philosophers. They did not have soldiers. They were the opposite. They were conquerors. They took what they wanted and killed anyone who resisted. They had destroyed 3 civilizations completely in the past century. They were not as technologically advanced as humans, but they had numbers. Lots of numbers. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from 7, a communications officer said on the 2nd day of travel. "It's the governor." "Put it through." The screen showed a woman. She looked exhausted and frightened. This was Governor, the leader of the colony. "Admiral, this is Governor. We need to talk about your arrival." "Governor, are you and your people safe?" "For now. They are occupying the colony, but they haven't killed everyone. They're taking prisoners for slave labor. We're hiding in bunkers and underground tunnels. But Admiral, we need to discuss your plans." "My plans are simple. We arrive, we destroy the fleet, we liberate your colony." Looked even more worried. "That's what I'm afraid of. Admiral, we appreciate your help, we truly do, but 47 ships against 43. The battle is going to be close. The fighting might destroy our city, maybe our whole planet." Was quiet for a moment. "Governor, do you want us to turn around?" I know we need help, but is there any way to do this peacefully? Can you negotiate with them? Negotiate, repeated the word like it was foreign to him. Governor, they attacked you without warning. They're taking your people as slaves. These are not people who understand negotiation. But you could try. Governor's voice was gentle but firm. When we arrive at your planet, we are going to give the one chance, one single chance to leave peacefully. They will refuse. I know this because people like them always refuse, and then we will remove them by force. This is not negotiable. You called for help. We answered. Now trust us to do what we do best. His face showed fear and relief at the same time. What if you lose? Smiled. It was not a comforting smile. Governor, humanity has been fighting wars for 10,000 years. We have never been good at building peace, but we are very, very good at winning wars. We won't lose. The transmission ended. Captain walked over to the Admiral. She doesn't understand yet. No, but she will. Looked at the star map showing their route. In 24 hours, she'll understand exactly what humans are. In 24 hours, they will understand why no one calls us for help unless they're desperate. Eyes were hard. And why those who attack people under our protection don't live to regret it. The fleet traveled on through the darkness of space, carrying 47 ships full of warriors who had answered a call for help. Behind them, Earth's Central Command was already mobilizing additional forces, just in case. Because when humans answered a distress call, they didn't send enough ships to do the job. They sent more than enough. They sent too many. They sent overwhelming force. And they never, ever turned back. Commander of the Imperial Fleet stood on his command ship and watched the edge of the Seven System. The humans had promised to arrive in 72 hours. That time had passed 20 minutes ago. He was starting to think they had changed their minds. Anything on sensors? He asked. No, Commander, the system is clear, no ships approaching. Smiled. The humans were lying. They were trying to scare us into leaving, but the Empire does not scare easily. Commander, the sensor officer's voice suddenly rose in pitch. Multiple contacts, coming out of FTL at the system's edge. How many? Counting. 47 ships, Commander, all battleship class, all human. Felt his confidence waver slightly. 47. They had actually sent 47 battleships for one small colony. It was insane. Battle positions. Bring the fleet into defensive formation. The 43 warships moved into position. They were good ships, well armed, well shielded, and they had been fighting and winning battles for decades. The humans might have numbers, but they had experience. Incoming transmission from the human fleet, Commander. Put it through. Let me hear what they have to say. The voice that came through was calm and cold. It was Admiral, Fleet, this is your final warning. Leave this system immediately. Take your ships and go. You have attacked a colony that called us for help. They are now under human protection. Leave now or we will remove you. Laughed. It was a harsh, barking sound. Human Admiral, you are outnumbered. You have 47 ships. We have 43. That is not overwhelming odds, and your ships are smaller than ours. If you want this colony, you will have to take it from us. We do not surrender. There was a pause. Then Admiral spoke again, and this time there was something in his voice that made blood run cold. You attacked someone who called us for help. No surrender will be accepted. All ships, weapons free. Show them what happens when you hurt the innocent. The human fleet surged forward. Had fought in 32 battles. He had destroyed enemy fleets. He had conquered planets. He had never seen anything like what happened next. The human ships did not maintain formation. They did not advance cautiously. They came at full speed, weapons firing before they were even in optimal range. It was like watching a pack of wild animals attack. No strategy, just pure, focused aggression. They're firing everything, missiles, plasma cannons. His weapons officer shouted. They're not even trying to conserve ammunition. Return fire. All ships, concentrate your fire on their lead vessels. The battle turned into chaos in seconds. Ships fired their main cannons at the approaching human fleet. They scored hits. Human shields flared and buckled. 2 human ships took critical damage in the first minute, but they didn't retreat. They didn't even slow down. They just kept coming, firing everything they had. Commander, the humans are launching boarding pods. What? We're still at long range. Those pods will be destroyed before they reach us. But they weren't. The humans launched hundreds of small pods from their ships. Most were destroyed by defensive fire, but some got through. They attached to hulls like parasites and began cutting their way inside. We have humans on board, decks 7 through 12. They're fighting through the ship. Couldn't believe it. The humans were boarding his ships in the middle of a space battle. Who did that? It was suicide. It was insane. It was terrifying. Commander, look at the human ships. They're ramming us. Turn to the main screen in time to see a human destroyer, badly damaged and leaking atmosphere, crash directly into a cruiser. Both ships exploded in a ball of fire. The human ship had been dying anyway, so they turned themselves into a weapon. Captain Commanded's fury from the center of the battle. His ship had taken heavy damage. The shields were at 15%. The hull had 3 breaches. 42 crew members were dead, and was smiling. Target that battleship, the big one in the center, full power to forward guns. Captain, if we fire at full power, we'll drain the shields completely. We'll be defenseless. I didn't ask for a discussion. Fire. This fury fired every forward weapon at once. The blast tore through space and slammed into the battleship's shields. The shields held for 3 seconds. Then they collapsed. The plasma cannons punched through the hull and into the ship's reactor core. The battleship exploded like a small sun. Yes, pumped his fist. That's 8, find me number 9. His crew scrambled to comply. They had learned long ago not to argue with Captain during a fight. He fought like a man who didn't believe in death, or maybe like a man who didn't fear it. In orbit above 7, watched the battle through the colony's sensors. She had never seen anything like it. The space above their planet was full of fire and explosions and death. Ships on both sides were dying, but the humans kept pressing forward. They never retreated. They never hesitated. They're not fighting to win, said quietly beside her. They're fighting to destroy. What's the difference? Winning means defeating your enemy. Destroying means making sure your enemy can never threaten anyone again. On the main command ship, Commander realized he was losing. The humans had lost 11 ships. They had lost 19, and the humans showed no signs of slowing down. If anything, they were fighting harder as the battle went on. All ships retreat, pull back to defensive positions around the planet. But retreating from humans in battle was like trying to outrun a predator. It just made them chase harder. A young human pilot named flew her fighter through the debris field. Her squadron had launched from the carrier's Pride at the start of the battle. Of the 12 fighters in her squadron, only 4 remained. But they had a job to do. To all fighters, we're out of missiles, switch to ramming protocols. Confirmed, it's been an honor. The 4 fighters turned toward the nearest cruiser. They accelerated to full speed. The cruiser's defensive guns opened fire, but the small fighters were hard to hit. 3 of them made it through. They crashed into the cruiser's bridge at full speed. The explosion was smaller than the big ship-to-ship blasts, but it was just as effective. The cruiser spun out of control, its command crew dead, and drifted into another ship. Ejected from her fighter 1 second before impact, her pod tumbled through space, broadcasting an emergency beacon. She would be picked up, eventually, if she didn't die from oxygen loss first. But she had done her job. That was what mattered. 2 hours into the battle, Admiral sent another transmission to the fleet. You have lost 26 ships. We have lost 13. You cannot win this fight, but you can still leave. Take your remaining ships and go. We have no interest in killing you. We only want you away from this planet." Commander looked at his tactical display. The human admiral was right. They had lost more than half their fleet. The humans had lost less than a third, and the humans were still fighting like fresh troops while his crews were exhausted. But the Empire did not surrender, ever. "Continue the attack. Focus fire on their damaged ships. We can still win this." Admiral heard the response and sighed. He had hoped they would be reasonable. He turned to his weapons officer. "Release the Hellfire missiles, all of them." "Sir, those are meant for planetary bombardment. If we use them on ships—" "I know what they're meant for. Fire them." The human fleet launched a wave of massive missiles. They were slow compared to normal ship-to-ship weapons, but they were powerful. Each one carried enough explosive force to level a small city. The ships tried to shoot them down. They destroyed most of them, but 8 got through. When they hit ships, the vessels simply ceased to exist. They didn't explode. They were just gone, vaporized by the force of the blast. Commander watched 3 of his battleships disappear in flashes of white light. He had 17 ships left. The humans had 34. There was no path to victory. There was no retreat. There was only survival. "All remaining ships retreat to FTL positions. We're leaving." "But Commander, the Empire—" "The Empire is not here. I am, and I'm ordering a retreat." The ships turned and ran. They jumped to FTL speeds and vanished, leaving 7 behind, leaving their dead behind, leaving their pride behind. Admiral watched them go. "Do not pursue. Let them leave. Our job was to save the colony, not to commit genocide." Captain looked disappointed. "They attacked civilians, Admiral. And now they're running home to tell everyone what happens when you attack civilians under human protection. They'll spread our reputation better than we ever could." The battle was over. The human fleet had lost 13 ships and over 4,000 crew members. They had lost 26 ships and over 12,000 personnel, and 7 was free. In the colony below burst into tears of relief. They had survived. The humans had saved them. But as she watched the human ships take up positions in orbit, words echoed in her mind. "When humans fight, planets burn." The battle was over, but had a feeling that the real challenges were just beginning. 3 days after the battle, Admiral stood in Governor's office and looked out at the colony. The fires had been put out. The bodies had been removed, but the scars remained. Buildings stood half destroyed. Streets were cratered from bombs. The beautiful farming colony looked like a war zone. "We appreciate what you did for us," said carefully. She was choosing her words like someone walking through a minefield. "You saved our people. Thousands would have died without your help. But Admiral, when will your fleet be leaving?" Turned from the window. "We're not leaving, Governor." The room went very quiet. His assistant, a young man, looked like he wanted to run. Herself went pale. "What do you mean?" "You sent us a distress call. We answered. That means you're under our protection now. We don't provide temporary assistance, Governor. When humans commit to protecting someone, we stay committed." "But they are gone. The threat is over." "Is it?" Pulled up a data display. "Our intelligence says the Empire is mobilizing a revenge fleet. 600 ships. They'll be here in 3 weeks. Maybe sooner." Sat down heavily. 600 ships. You can't fight 600 ships." "We can, and we will, but not alone. We've called for reinforcements. The 2nd and 5th fleets are on their way. We'll have almost 90 ships here when they return." 90 against 600, his voice was hollow. "Admiral, that's suicide." "That's defense." Sat down across from her. "Governor, I understand you're frightened. Your world has been peaceful for generations. War is new to you, but understand this, we answered your call. That makes you ours to protect. We don't abandon people, not ever. Even if it means your people die. Especially then." Before could respond, there was a knock on the door. A human marine stood there in full combat armor. This was commander, leader of the human ground forces. He was a big man, even by human standards, with scars on his face and a mechanical eye. Admiral, we've finished setting up the defensive positions. The colony is as secure as we can make it. Good, how are the civilians? Scared of us mostly. Can't blame them. We're not exactly comforting to look at. Grinned, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. His face wasn't made for gentle smiles. Treat them well, Commander. They're not the enemy. Understood, sir. After left looked at with confusion. Your people are so strange. You fight like demons, but then you talk about treating civilians well. Fighting and protecting are not opposites, Governor. They're two parts of the same job. Over the next few days, the human presence became impossible to ignore. Marines were everywhere, setting up defensive positions, building fortifications, installing weapon emplacements. They turned the peaceful farming colony into a military base. A young woman named watched the humans work. She was fascinated and terrified at the same time. The humans were so different from her people. They were shorter but much more heavily built. They moved with purpose and efficiency. Everything they did seemed to be part of some larger plan. One day she approached a group of Marines who were building a wall around the colony's main water supply. They all turned to look at her when she got close. Their eyes were alert and watchful, like predators. "Can I help you, miss?" one of them asked. His accent was thick, but his was understandable. "I wanted to ask, why are you doing all this? Building walls and guns? Won't that just make the attack harder when they come back?" The Marine smiled. It was a tired smile. "Miss, they are coming back either way. At least with walls and guns, some of your people might survive. But you're turning our home into a fortress." "Yes, ma'am, that's exactly what we're doing." Why do you care so much? You don't even know us." The Marine was quiet for a moment. Then he said, 3 weeks ago I was on Earth. I was planning to retire. I've been fighting for 20 years and I was done. Then the call came in. A peaceful colony was under attack. They asked for help. And every person in my unit volunteered to come. Every single one. You know why?" Shook her head. "Because you asked. That's all the reason we need." Didn't understand. It didn't make sense. But she could see the sincerity in his eyes. He meant every word. In the medical center, a human combat medic named was working on a child who had been injured in the attack. The girl's leg had been badly broken. Worked carefully, setting the bone and applying a medical brace. "There you go, sweetie. That should feel better soon." The girl's mother watched nervously. Will she be able to walk again? Absolutely. Give it 2 weeks and she'll be running around like nothing happened. Human medical technology is pretty good, smiled. Though try to keep her off it for a few days if you can. Thank you so much." Shrugged, "It's what I do. You need anything else? Food, water. I can get some supplies brought over." The mother hesitated. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Why are you being so kind to us? They say humans are violent, dangerous, but you've been nothing but gentle with my daughter." Sat down. "We are violent, we are dangerous. When we fight to win. We don't hold back. We don't show mercy to our enemies, but you're not our enemy. You're the people we came to save. There's a difference. I don't understand how you can be both things, kind and cruel." "Neither do we sometimes," smiled sadly. "But it's who we are. We protect the innocent and destroy those who hurt them. Some people think that's contradictory. We think it's just logical." Commander walked through the colony at night, checking the defensive positions. He found a group of his Marines sharing their food rations with families. The families looked uncomfortable but grateful. The Marines looked completely at ease. "Sir," one of them said when he approached, "we were just—" "I can see what you're doing," looked at the families. "You folks doing okay, getting enough to eat?" An elderly man nodded slowly. "Yes, your soldiers have been very generous, but we don't understand. You're warriors, you kill, but you're also—" Kind, finished. Yeah, we get that a lot. Here's the thing, we didn't come here to conquer you. We came here to save you. Those are very different missions. But you've taken over our colony. You're building weapons. You've turned our home into a military base. We're protecting your home, corrected. There's a difference. When they come back, and they will come back, this colony needs to be able to withstand an attack. We're not taking over, we're fortifying. For how long? Was quiet for a moment. Until you don't need us anymore. Could be months, could be years, could be decades, but we'll stay as long as we're needed. That's a long commitment. That's what humans do. Back in her office, Governor was reading reports when Admiral came to visit. He looked tired. The stress of preparing for the coming battle was showing on his face. Can't sleep, Admiral. Not much point, though we'll be here in 2 weeks. I need to make sure everything is ready. Can I ask you something honestly? Of course. Why are you really doing this? Your government didn't order you to stay. You could leave right now and no one would blame you. You've already saved us once, but instead you're preparing to fight an impossible battle. Why? Sat down and was quiet for a long moment. 200 years ago, when humans first went into space, we were excited. We thought we'd find friends, allies, a community of peaceful species all working together. And we did find that, but we also found something else. What? We found that the peaceful species stayed peaceful by ignoring violence. When pirates attacked, the council talked about it. When empires conquered, the council debated. When innocents died, the council formed committees. They had laws and rules and procedures, but they didn't have action. They didn't have justice. They didn't have protection. So humans decided to provide it. No, humans decided to be it. We're not part of the galactic community anymore, Governor. We left that behind long ago. But we made a promise to ourselves. Anyone who calls for help will get it. Anyone who attacks the innocent will face consequences. That's our law. That's our rule. That's our procedure. Even if it means fighting hopeless battles. Smiled, it was a hard smile. Governor, we've been fighting hopeless battles for 10,000 years. We're very good at winning them. Looked at this human admiral who had turned her colony into a fortress, who had brought his ships and his soldiers and his weapons to protect people he had never met, and she realized something. You're not conquerors, she said quietly. No, we're not. You're guardians. That's one word for it. Stood up. Get some rest, Governor. In 2 weeks they are going to come back, and they're going to learn the same lesson every other species has learned. When you attack someone under human protection, you don't get to walk away. He left alone in her office. Outside, human soldiers continued their work, building, fortifying, preparing. They were turning 7 into a fortress, not to conquer it but to protect it, because someone had asked for help, and humans never ignored a call for help. In the streets below, watched the human Marines work. She was starting to understand them. They were warriors. They were killers. They were also protectors. Somehow, they were all of these things at once. And in 2 weeks, they were going to prove it. The revenge fleet arrived exactly when human intelligence predicted. 600 warships dropped out of FTL at the edge of the 7 system. They formed a wall of metal and weapons that stretched across space like a small moon. It was the largest military force the Empire had ever assembled. Admiral stood on the bridge of Sol's Hammer and watched them arrive. His fleet had grown to 89 ships with the reinforcements, 89 against 600. The odds were worse than the first battle. All ships battle stations, defensive formation around 7. Do not fire unless fired upon. Captain's voice came through the communications system. Admiral, with respect, defensive formation. We should attack while they're still organizing. No, Captain, we're not the aggressors here. They are. Let them make the first move. Let the galaxy see who started this fight. On the flagship, Commander stared at the human fleet. He had escaped the first battle with only 17 ships. He had reported the defeat to the Emperor, and the Emperor had been furious. The Empire did not suffer defeats. The Empire did not retreat. The Empire conquered. So they had assembled this massive fleet, 600 of the best ships in the Navy, and had been given a simple order: destroy the humans and take the planet. No mercy. No prisoners. Total victory. Transmit to the human fleet, ordered. Tell them they have one chance to surrender. If they leave now, we will let them live. If they stay, they all die. The message was sent. The response came back within seconds. It was Admiral's voice, calm and clear. Fleet, you attacked a peaceful colony. You killed innocents. You took slaves. You started this war. Now you come back with overwhelming numbers thinking that will change the outcome. It won't. These people are under human protection. That means we will defend them with everything we have. You want this planet, come and take it. But know this, every ship you lose, every soldier that dies, every weapon that fails, that's on you. You chose this. Now live with the consequences. The transmission ended. Felt anger rise in his chest. The arrogance of these humans. They were outnumbered 7-1 and still they the Empire. All ships attack formation, destroy them. The fleet surged forward like a tidal wave of steel. The human fleet held its position around 7. They didn't advance. They didn't retreat. They just waited. Admiral, they are entering weapons range, the tactical officer reported. Fire at will. Show them what human determination looks like. The battle began differently than the first one. The humans didn't charge. They held position and fired everything they had. Missiles streaked through space. Rounds tore through shields. Plasma cannons carved holes in enemy hulls. The defensive ring around 7 became a wall of fire. But there were too many ships. They absorbed the losses and kept coming. 10 ships destroyed, 20, 30. They didn't care. They had numbers. They had mass. They had the weight of an empire behind them. Admiral, they're breaking through the outer defensive line. We can't hold them all. His jaw tightened. All ships fall back to close orbit around the planet. Activate the surface defenses. On 7, a human engineer named Minu pressed a button. He had spent the last 2 weeks converting the colony's mining equipment into weapons. Drilling lasers became anti-ship cannons. Ore processors became missile launchers. Transport shuttles became attack craft. Surface batteries online, targeting ships, firing. Beams of energy lanced up from the planet's surface. They caught the ships by surprise. These were civilian mining tools converted into military weapons, and they were devastatingly effective at close range. 3 cruisers were destroyed in the first volley. They weaponized the mining colony. Couldn't believe it. The humans turned farming equipment into weapons. Commander, we're taking heavy losses. We've lost 73 ships and we haven't even reached the planet yet. 73 ships. That was more than they had lost in the first battle, and the humans were still fighting, still holding, still refusing to break. Captain saw an opening in the formation, a gap where their ships were trying to avoid the surface fire. He made a decision that would either win the battle or end his life. All power to engines, we're going through. Captain, that will take us right into the center of their fleet. I know, do it anyway. This fury accelerated to full speed. It punched through the line like a knife through paper. Behind it, 15 other human ships followed. They were inside the enemy formation now, surrounded by hundreds of enemy vessels. Target their flagship, the big one in the center. All weapons fire. The human strike force unleashed everything they had at the flagship. Their shields held, but barely. The flagship tried to return fire, but it was surrounded by its own ships. Any shot it took risked hitting its allies. Grinned, launch boarding pods, all of them, were taking that ship. Pods erupted from the human vessels. Hundreds of them. Most were destroyed, but dozens got through. They latched onto the flagship and began cutting their way inside. Commander felt his ship shake as the humans breached the hull. Security teams to all breach points. Stop them. But stopping human Marines in close-quarters combat was like trying to stop a hurricane with an umbrella. They fought with a ferocity that had never seen. They used guns, knives, and when those ran out, their own bodies as weapons. They didn't retreat. They didn't surrender. They just kept coming. "Commander, the humans are at Deck 3. They're heading for the bridge. Seal all bulkheads, vent the corridors to space, do whatever it takes to stop them." But the humans had brought breaching equipment. They cut through sealed doors. They wore suits that let them survive in vacuum. They were prepared for every defense that tried. Captain led the assault personally. His armor was scorched and dented. His rifle was empty, but he had a pistol in one hand and a combat knife in the other. Behind him, 20 Marines fought with the same desperate intensity. "Bridge ahead, one more door." They blasted through the final barrier and stormed onto the flagship's command deck. Stood there with his command staff, weapons drawn. "You will not take this ship," said in broken human language. Pointed his pistol at the commander. "Your fleet is dying. Your empire sent you here to kill innocents, and you have the nerve to tell me I won't take your ship. Watch me." The brief firefight was brutal and one-sided. The command staff were officers, not soldiers. The humans were Marines who had trained their entire lives for combat. It was over in seconds. Grabbed by the collar and dragged him to the flagship's communications array. "You're going to broadcast a message to your fleet. You're going to tell them to stand down." "Never. The Empire does not surrender." "Then the Empire will watch its fleet die." Looked at the tactical display. They had lost over 200 ships now. The humans had lost 31. The mathematics were terrible. At this rate, they would lose their entire fleet before they could take the planet. And this human captain had just captured their flagship, their command ship, the symbol of military might. Slumped in defeat, what do you want me to say? Admiral watched the fleet begin to withdraw. The enemy flagship was broadcasting orders to retreat. The battle was over. Humanity had won again. But wasn't finished. He opened a channel to the entire fleet. And then he opened channels to every major power within 50 light years. This message needed to be heard by everyone. "Attention all vessels and civilizations receiving this transmission. This is Admiral of the Human Defense Fleet. 3 weeks ago, a peaceful colony called us for help. They were under attack by the Empire. We came, we fought, we won. Today, they returned with 600 warships to take revenge. We had 89 ships. We won again. Let this be a message to every empire, every conqueror, every species that thinks violence against the innocent is acceptable. When you attack someone under human protection, this is what happens. Your fleets burn, your ships break. Your soldiers die. We are not the strongest species in the galaxy. We are not the most advanced. We are not the most numerous, but we are the most determined. We are the ones who answer distress calls. We are the ones who protect the innocent. We are the ones who never, ever give up. If you want peace, we offer it freely. If you want trade, we welcome it. If you want friendship, we embrace it. But if you choose violence against those who cannot defend themselves, if you prey on the weak, if you think might makes right, you will face us. And you will lose. This planet is now under permanent human protection. Any attack on 7 will be considered an attack on humanity itself. And humanity does not forgive. Humanity does not forget. Humanity does not surrender. Remember this day. Remember what happened here. And remember, when the innocent call for help, humans answer. Every single time. The transmission ended. Across 50 star systems, civilizations heard the message. Some were frightened, some were angry, but all of them understood. Humans were not to be trifled with. On 7 stood in the communications center and cried. She had made a mistake 3 weeks ago. She had sent a distress call to a species she thought was weak and desperate. Instead, she had called the most terrifying warriors in the galaxy. And they had come, they had fought, they had bled, they had died, all to save people they had never met. "Why?" she asked Admiral when he came down to the planet's surface after the battle. "Why did you do all this? We're nobody. We're just farmers. Why did you lose 31 ships and thousands of your people to save us?" Looked at her with tired eyes. "Because you asked for help, and we never do anything halfway." Walked over. "What happens now?" "Now we rebuild. We establish a permanent defense station in orbit. We help you repair your colony. We train your people to defend themselves, and we stay for as long as you need us." That could be years. That's what humans do. Months later, the galactic database was updated. The corrupted entry about humans was replaced with a new one. It read, "Humans military species extreme caution advised will respond to distress calls with overwhelming force. Do not attack species under their protection. Do not mistake their kindness for weakness. Contact only in dire circumstances. Warning. Calling humans for help will result in the sky becoming full of battleships." And across the galaxy, species began adding humans to their emergency contact lists, because everyone knew now. When you called humans for help, they answered. Every time, with everything they had. Kept a picture of Admiral and Captain on her desk. A reminder of the day she made a mistake that saved her world. A reminder that sometimes, calling the wrong people turns out to be exactly right. The humans stayed at 7. They built a massive orbital station. They trained defense forces. They established trade routes and cultural exchanges. The colony that had been helpless became one of the most protected places in the galaxy. And every year, on the anniversary of the first battle, the humans held a ceremony. They read the names of all the crew members who had died defending 7. They honored the fallen. They remembered the sacrifice. Because humans never forgot. They never abandoned. They never surrendered. They answered distress calls, every single time, with the sky full of battleships.